Hey guys, so I thought I would give you a little garden tour. It is May 30th, 2020, and it's about 6:15ish in the evening here. It's just starting to get a little cooler, a little bit more able to be outside. It was crazy humid today. We had a really exciting day. The SpaceX Dragon manned flight left it off about 3 hours ago, and that was really exciting for the kids to watch. So we did a lot of that. We were worried about it not getting off because of the clouds, but looks like the sky's really done a good job of clearing out, and that means drier. It was so humid. It was like a wall hitting you when you came out this morning. But anyway, so this is my garden. I started originally more over in that direction over here when we first built on this property, and then I tried a few different ideas. I did one behind our shed here. I did one over behind our patio, and I decided I'm gonna move it all here. I'm gonna make it something really nice and usable, and I'm gonna work really hard on it. It takes a lot of work in Florida to have a good garden, especially the environment I'm in is a very hilly. It's actually not very Florida-esque, which I kind of like. It's extremely hilly. We live on a very high spot. We live on the highest point in our county. The highest point is right over there in that pasture right there, and we live just below that. So we have extremely well-draining soil that's very sandy. So it does not hold a lot of nutrients, which means I've had to amend the soil a lot. But I think I've gotten to a good understanding of it all. Just means more fertilizing, means more amending, means more work on the actual land than I'd like to do. But if I'm going to get some results, I have to. So I'm just going to walk you guys through here. Here I have a tower garden that I tried. A neighbor made this and gave it to me. Didn't really work. My kids use it as like a maypole. So there's that. We've got some roselle sorrel here that's sprouting up. This is just what I have on the outside. I've got some climbing aster, and I also have some honeysuckle growing up my arbor here. Whenever I can find a used tire on the side of the road, I pick it up. They make good little planters and little things to use for your garden. So this pumpkin, which popped up because my chicken pen used to be right here, and then I do a switch off about once a year. The coop was here, and then moved it here. And then once this garden is done and this has been all tilled up and nicely manured, I'm gonna move that back over here and I'll plant over here. But this pumpkin came up and it is huge. It must have been one of the Halloween pumpkins we threw out to the chickens when it was done. And I'm gonna take you to see, that's one of them. I had to support it. We already had one break off the vine, which I'm ripening in the house. I don't know if you guys can see. There's one that's huge, just giant. It's a huge guy that's gonna pop up. So also on that side here, I have butterfly pea. That's a little tiny. It's slowly growing. It's been taking forever. Just waiting for it to do something like climb up this fence. I've got a few more, as you'll see in the garden too. And then over here, I have this, which was established before this garden was. This is my little butterfly garden area. I've got a pomegranate tree. I've also got an olive tree, which this flower is hiding right now. It's in here. You just can't see it very well. And I also have a papaya going in there. This is called Indian blanket flower. It loves this Florida environment, and they pop up everywhere. I planted a few over here once upon a time, and it spreads all over the yard like you can see. They come on in these little clusters, and that's where the seed is. And once that dries, you can just break them off, and they reseed You can see all the milkweed and Mexican petunia. There's my papaya. And this had lantana and everything. I have to still fill this in. And this big guy is pineapple sage. It was little tiny in this pot a while back, and it must have seeded over the pot and just took off. It's just crazy taking over the butterfly garden. All right, let's go ahead and head in. You can see everything. This little stone we made. Welcome to our garden. All right, so since I'm facing this way, we'll do this. I have these 2 raised beds. I made them with some lumber that we had around and some galvanized panels. Super easy and cheap. Took a lot of soil to fill it. So there's a lot of money inside there, and it drains away and you got to keep filling it back up, which I'm learning. In this bed right now I've got kale, which is left over from my winter garden, and also some flowering kale over there. Got scallions. I've got mint here. This is a Thai basil. That's another basil that's limping along. But over this is some cow panels that a neighbor gave me. So a lot of this stuff is stuff I've just got along the way or scavenged or got real cheap. So anyways, this is loofah, and it's going to grow up over this, and I've got it on both sides, both raised beds. Hopefully they'll meet in the middle and the loofahs will hang down. It's late in the evening, so the blossoms aren't out, but that's kind of what you're looking at when you're looking at. I love how they have these little, there's a whole bunch that come out ready. I also have beans climbing up here, you know, to fill in the spaces between the squash. It's the end of the season. Actually, it's well past the season for these guys, for this kale. So I'm going to harvest this really soon. You can see that these light buds, and it's starting to get very vertical, which means it's going to start bolting. And when I harvest that before it does, so that it doesn't get bitter. Here I've got blue pumpkin, another seed that just, you know, I'm always, whenever I'm getting some unique fruits or vegetables, I pop them in some soil and see if they grow. So we're going to get some of those. So this is some of my, I bought these tomato plants. This is the only tomato plants I have here that I've bought. And I've got Mr. Stripey here, and I've got a beefsteak here. And in the middle here, I've got interspersed, I've got black beans coming up. And then over here, this is called chayote. And I planted it here because it seems like this would be a good spot for it to kind of be out of the way. It takes over, supposedly, and keeps growing perennially. So over here, we have something that looks like a collard, and I still have not figured out what it is. It's got more of a purple stalk, and collard does not have that. So I've been trying to research and ask around. Nobody really can remember what they think that might be. I did a seed order with some friends, and the cats knocked it over, and so some of the stuff just popped up, and I didn't really know what it was. So I've got cilantro, which has started to bolt because, again, it's getting into the mid-90s here in Florida right now. Some beans. I suggest planting beans everywhere you can. They're adding that nitrogen to your soil. They're a great little filler plant. The ones that don't vine, they're just going to stay nice and low and keep feeding the plants around it. So I've got some tomatoes here. These were actually ones that I rescued from other places around the garden. You know, throwing seeds out and bring them in. And we've got some okra going here too. I gotta weed this bed. It's pretty bad right now, but some more black beans here. Over here, I have my lone sweet potato because my dogs, those wonderful dogs I have, dug up this whole bed of sweet potatoes. They left that one. Thankfully, one has survived. I also planted some yucca out here, and they did the same thing. So, I'll be looking to fill this bed in before it starts filling in with weeds. Over here is my bottle tree, which I just love. That's one of the first things I put out in my garden. I've wanted one since I was a little girl. Whenever I'd go see really cool gardens, they always had these really neat bottle trees. And so my favorite bottle on there, I'll show you. This one is a lobster. And inside was some red wine, so it looked red. This is from Maine, where I have some deep connections to. And this came from the Port Clyde General Store. So, anyways, and this is my other favorite thing. I've been working on getting one to work in my garden for years. I got here a teepee, and I wanted to create a space where my kids could come and hang out and they wouldn't complain about being in the garden with me when it is 95 degrees out and not very pleasant. So this is going to provide them a fun little place where they can hang out and play. We've played in here a few times so far since it has started to really get nice and big growing up there. I've got Seminole squashes growing in here and pole beans. And so this is the best method that worked for me. Like I said, again, soil's not good here. I found that this is the best way to get the teepee to work. It provides a good base for these poles. We get really strong storms, i.e. hurricanes here in Florida. And the wind has knocked down several of my attempts in those storms. So I think that now I have a really good system. And so I'm hoping it's going to work out real nice. This is what's left of my collards. Again, end of season. They're starting to get a little burnt out, a little buggy. This one, I don't know what happened to the top of it. Probably one of my kids ate the top off of it. But in here, this was my peanut. And in a previous video I made, there is, I went over how I did peanuts in here. And of course, there's the little stragglers who like to keep coming up. Once you do peanuts, you're probably going to always have peanuts in there. But I don't mind because they provide lots of nitrogen and ground cover for the soil. I also had bok choy in here, but those went to flower a long time ago, and I have a few stragglers I haven't pulled out yet. But in their place, I have planted okra in here, a few rows. And when I pull out these collards, I'm probably going to do peppers in here. I've got some peppers waiting to come out of their pots and go in here once I get these out. Over here, I have corn. Corn has been the bane of my existence since I've tried to grow it. It is so hard to grow here where I am in my environment in Florida. Although Florida corn is, one of the bigger cash crops here, but I don't know. I haven't found. I think I'm starting to find the secret so far. They're huge nitrogen drainers. They need to be grown real close, but not too far up. They're very touchy, and the bugs love them. Absolutely love them, which is also another problem in buggy Florida. But I am figuring it out. Some diatomaceous earth, some neem oil, some neem powder, some good fertilization, and I think I've figured it out. It looks pretty good. I'm just praying for these little guys that are popping up here. See them, the little baby corns? I'm hoping that they will last, because usually what happens is they get to this point and then the bugs come and they eat them all from the inside out. And you open that nice big juicy piece of corn and it's just full of worms and bugs. So everybody say a little prayer for me. But that garden, that plot, I got down on my hands and knees after tilling it and raking it and went 6 inches down with my hands, every single inch of that, on my hands and knees, digging out all the roots. And of course they still came up, and oh boy. Yeah, so I've got a mixture of, after the corn got pretty high, I got some horse manure and mulch mixture, that's what this pile is over here. That's what I've got here. You can't really tell, but down in here is horse manure, and then I have mulch over that. So it's it makes like a really nice little top mixture to add to your nitrogen loving plants. I have this is, I've always dreamed of having one of these, and I'm so glad a lady at church, she brought me a cutting off of her garden, and I really appreciate it. And this has just been a year of growth. It started off like that last year, and it went whoop, and it's gonna get even taller. Beautiful perennial sunflower that the bees and the wasps and all the lovely little pollinators just love. So, and I love it too. It also provides some good shade and some fun visual structure and color for the garden. So then this has also been a source of frustration. This is passion flower. And so when I started this garden area many moons ago, they pop up naturally out here on our property. This is an old orange grove. It's on top of a hill. It's Florida. It's very sandy and almost desert-like. We get actually a lot of cactuses and a lot of plants like that out here. So this passion flower has popped up it's also called maypop, because the little fruit supposedly, I don't think that happens here in Florida. I think it takes a little longer, but because we're so hot, but they get kind of yellowy and spotty, and then they pop. And that's why they're called maypops. So, but anyways, I would trellis up a few because we have a Gulf fritillary butterfly here in Florida that just absolutely loves this stuff. It's a food source and an egg source for that butterfly. And of course, because my kids just adore butterflies, I kept some. And every year, it would die back, but geez, this year it did not. I had, underneath here is a pile of soil that I would use to fill my beds that I had ordered and dumped here, and it just completely took over. So, I stopped fighting it, and I just let it grow. And you can see up my chicken coop, which, there's Gloria, little Miss Gloria. Hello. And those are our little pullets. They're not laying yet, but about a month or two they will be. You can see the hanging fruit that's growing in here. Those should get yellowish and kind of be ready to harvest. And so hopefully this will be worth something. And then after that, I'm going to try to pull a lot of it up. They're crazy invasive. They grow by oh, there's a bumblebee. You don't see them a lot. You don't see them a lot in Florida. My girls made a little bumblebee house to try to encourage them to live here, and they're so good for pollinating. Bye bye, Mr. Bumblebee, or Mrs. Bumblebee. Over there I attempted some sunflowers that barely came up. I think my dogs got in there, tore it up. But usually that's where I do my sunflowers. So I'm going to try it again in the fall. Because they do really well in those mid seasons where it's warm still during the day and kind of cool at night. So that's that over there. And then over here is my pumpkins. We've got a Cinderella pumpkin growing in here. Oh, and I forgot to mention over here with my corn, if you can see that. Those are some of those blue pumpkins I planted out there. I also had some cantaloupe, which ended up dying, and I did some beans trying to do the Three Sisters. But we do have some pumpkins planted in there too. Hopefully they'll feed off of each other and make a good crop. But over here is my Cinderella pumpkins, and then again, all those tomatoes, all of them, came up all on their own after these guys got moved. Because, we throw out our scraps, we throw out our all our things that we're done eating, and they all come out here. So I'm just thrilled that all these tomatoes are coming up. I'll be eating a ton of tomatoes, which I do anyways. And so let's see what we got here. We got that. Let me see if I can zoom in. And we also have some volunteer, I want to say it's sorghum. I don't think it's corn. And here I'm trying to grow some ground cherries from some seeds that have come up. Trailer going by. This is that giant pumpkin I'm talking about. And you can see it next to the chicken. That's just huge. Here's my hand next to it. Here's my hand. It's huge. It's huge. And I was so mad at my daughter when they were tiny. She went and she carved her initials into them, and I lost a few because of it. But thank goodness most of them survived. Also got some purple sweet potato here, grown in pots. And you know what? This is still a work in progress. None of this is done. It's still going to be changing. I wanted to come out here and give you this little garden tour because soon the heat of the summer is going to set in. The bugs are going to come out. I've already been spending a lot of time now. Instead of planting and prepping, I've been pest controlling this garden. And so I'll take you over to some of the other things we've got going on here on our property. We've got our bougainvillea. We had to really trim that down this year, and so it hasn't flowered as much. But and our jasmine, which is just this amazing smell. This is where I used to have the garden, but now it's my big mulch pile. We've got some knockout roses, some pigeon pea, and some firebush, which is one of my favorites. Hopefully when that guy gets nice and big, it's going to attract tons of... These dogs love the mulch pile. Tons of butterflies. Woo! Wildlife hitting me in the chest. Okay, so over here I had a field of buckwheat. I was growing this for 3 reasons. The buckwheat was for nitrogen fixing in the soil. So if I want to plant out here, I also have peach trees and some citrus trees out here that that can benefit from that. They provide food for my bees, which are right here, and they also can provide food. So here's the seed pods, and as they drop, I'm gonna probably come in and I'm gonna till these back into the earth, so they provide some green manure, and they provide a new crop of them that's just going to keep going. Probably not until it gets cooler. That's why I think these didn't grow as high. I started them a little later than I wanted to, and they ended up going to seed, and they weren't too high. But I've also got a loquat here. I had over here, a little jackfruit tree somebody gave me. So our citrus, those are peaches. There's our little bees. Alright, I've also got pineapple in here. Although it looks like, I don't know. Just discovered that our dogs love to destroy. Anyways, trying to find that pineapple after I zoomed in. You can see the pineapple pups that we planted. I'm gonna go out here and show you a bit more. Oh, and we just got a bunch of blackberry brambles we're gonna plant along the fence over at the garden. Just don't have those in yet. And here's my kids' really super cool. This would have been like my dream come true when I was a kid. Play area. They've got an awesome tree house and playground and all that. And here I've got my moringa. Kay took which my kids just love. It's a spinach alternative. Got elderberry going back here. And some more moringa. We have them back here because since we live so high, they'll do better in the shade here. All right. Here's my little farmhouse. Thank you for going on the little garden tour with me. And I hope I inspired you to work hard, not give up. Make those garden dreams come true. All right. See you next time, guys.